Remember guys, if they can do it, so can you. Walang imposible. Stories like this will really keep our hearts and mind grounded on what we truly dream. Hopefully, the journey they have gone through will be the same for us as well. So, moving forward, with that, it is my honor to introduce our esteemed lecturer for today for land, titles, and deeds under civil law. Our lecturer has spent his high school and college days in the seminary and graduated magna cum laude. A former president of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines Albay chapter, a former commissioner of the Commission on Bar and Discipline of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, a former trustee of the Philippine Association of Law Schools or PALS. He is currently the Dean of the University of Santo Tomas Legazpi College of Law, a professor in land, titles and deeds and clinical legal education, and currently the managing partner of Acuende Miliano and Partners Law Office. Let us all welcome Dean Leandro M. Miliano. Good morning, Dean. Oh, Dean, I think you're on mute po. Oh,
Thank you very
yeah,
much, Miguel, and good
good
morning.
morning. Hope you had a great morning, especially because of last week.
Yes, maganda naman yung tulog.
Okay, po. Without further ado, I'll leave you now, Dean, with your lecture.
Okay, so thank you very much and good morning sa lahat ng nakikinig sa lecture natin. So I will be discussing some recent jurisprudence in land titles and deeds. I chose the most important ones, okay, uh, because you all know sa pagdating ng bar exam, they usually give at least one or two questions in the subject. Okay, so so as not to delay yung pag-study ninyo, I just picked up the most important recent jurisprudence ng Supreme Court. Okay, so we'll be starting with the buyer in good faith. Okay, so again, ang discussion natin dito will also apply to a mortgagee. Okay, so any discussion applies both to a buyer in good faith and a mortgagee in good faith. Now, in the case of Sulit versus Spouses Alfonso, okay, I'm citing this case because I'll be uh, citing the three conditions that must concur before a buyer can be considered as a buyer in good faith. Okay. The first one is that the seller is the registered owner of the land. Okay. The second one, the seller is in possession thereof. Now, I will be focusing on the third requirement kasi nandito yung mga bagong cases natin. Ang third requirement is that at the time of the sale, the buyer was not aware of any claim or interest on some other persons in the property or of any defect or restriction in the title of the seller, okay, or in his capacity to convey title to the property. Okay, so now, ang issue ngayon dito, ang recent jurisprudence na I want you to really note, okay, is the reference point in determining the status of a buyer in good faith. Okay? What I mean is that, di ba, there is the execution of the sale and there is usually a period before the registration of the sale in the ROD. Okay? Because this period now is crucial in determining the status of a buyer in good faith. Okay. The previous rule before etong ruling sa the case that I'm now referring to is Duenas versus Metropolitan Bank and Trust Company. This is GR number 209463. Again, 209463. This is a November 29, 2022 case. Okay, I'm highlighting the importance of this case because this is a change in the previous ruling of the Supreme Court. Okay. Now, before siguro nung nasa second year kayo in law school, what is being taught is that to be considered a buyer in good faith, it is enough that you are in good faith at the time of the execution of the sale. So kung January yung sale, January 1, halimbawa, so as long as that you are in good faith at the time of the execution, so regardless of the your status at the time of the registration of the sale, halimbawa December mo na i-register, so kahit pa in the middle, halimbawa March, nagkaroon ka ng knowledge or actual knowledge of a defect on the title of the seller, you are still considered as a buyer in good faith. Okay? Now, of course, the rule is different when it comes to double sale. Okay? Because in double sale, the good faith must continue until the registration. Kasi required yun ng law that the registration must also be made in good faith. Now, what's the new in the case? What's the new ruling? Okay. Let's go first to the facts of the Duenas versus Metrobank. Okay. So in this case, Florencia Duenas is the owner of 3 parcel of land. Okay. He has 3 separate certificates of title covering the land. Now, the respondent here, Bernal, was able to fraudulently obtain a second owner's duplicate copy ng mga title. Okay? That was in March 12, 1992. So, meron na siyang second owner's duplicate copy. And she was also able to cause the issuance of new titles in her name using a falsified decision and an absolute deed of sale, okay, allegedly executed in 1985. So, mayroon na siyang title doon sa property. Now, binenta niya ito, she sold it in 1993 to AF Realty Development Incorporated or AFRDI, okay? And AFRDI was also able to get a certificate of title in its name. So, nasa pangalan na ni AFRDI yung property. Now, that was in 1993. Okay? May April 28, 1993. Now, on January 31, 1994, AFRDI sold the 3 lots to Metrobank. Okay. Pumasok na ngayon si Metrobank. There was a deed of sale. But before Metrobank could register the sale, okay, on February 22, 1994, the spouses Duenas filed a case already in court. Okay. And now they want to nullify the certificates of title covering the land as well as the deed of sale in favor of AFRDI. Hindi pa niya alam na naibenta na din pala sa Metrobank. Okay? And because there was already that case, the spouses Duenas caused now the annotation of a notice of lispendence on the certificates of title of AFRDI. Okay. That was in February 1994. Now, take note that the deed of sale from AFRDI to Metrobank was in 1993. Now, I'm sorry, the sale was in January 31, 1994. Okay, that was the date of the sale. The annotation was on February 23, 1994. So, less than a month after ng sale. But at the time, hindi pa nire-register ni Metrobank yung deed of sale niya. Okay. Now, here is now the issue doon sa case. Whether Metrobank is considered a buyer in good faith or in bad faith in view of the subsequent annotation of the notice of lease pendens after the consummation of the sale, but prior to the registration of the sale by Metrobank. Okay? Now, eto ang sabi ng Supreme Court. Okay? Again, previously, ang rulings ng Supreme Court ay it's enough that you are in good faith at the time of the execution of the sale. But this time, okay, the new ruling now requires that the buyer must be a continuing purchaser for value in good faith until the registration of the conveyance. Okay? So, again, crucial yung date ng from the time of the execution of the sale until the registration, because you must maintain your status as a buyer in good faith. Otherwise, if you acquire knowledge of any defect during that period, you will be considered as a buyer in bad faith. Okay? Malinaw. So ang lumalabas ngayon, ang rule na ngayon is the same already as that of a double sale. So parehas na. So wag na kayong malilito. Isang rule na lang both for double sale and all other cases. Okay? So dapat yung good faith must be at the time of the registration. Yun na ang reckoning period. Okay? So let's move on to another case. Now, di ba ang requirement, the buyer must not be aware. So ano yung mga instances na the buyer can or may be aware of defect? Okay, dalawa yon. The first one, if he has actual and or constructive knowledge of a defect. Okay? Pwedeng constructive knowledge. I will give you one case, recent case on that one. And the second one, if he has actual knowledge of facts and circumstances that would reasonably arouse suspicion and he failed to inquire, okay, or to take necessary steps. Okay, so dalawa yon, actual or constructive knowledge of a defect. The other one, there are facts and circumstances that would have reasonably aroused suspicion. Okay, now let's go to the first one. I'll give you one case of a constructive knowledge. It's GR number 225722. Again, 225722, April 26th, 2023. This is the case of Republic versus Espejo. Okay? Republic versus Espejo. Now, I'll not discuss the facts anymore. I'll just give you the background of this case. Now, in this case, there was in the first certificate of title, there was an adverse claim. Now, when the property was fraudulently registered to another, the adverse claim was not annotated. I mean, carried over. Okay? So, yung bagong owner na, yung title niya, it was already clean. Hindi kasi na carry over yung adverse claim. And then, when it was sold to Espejos, to Espejo, nung binili niya, there's no more annotation. So now he is now claiming, or she is now claiming, that he is a buyer in good faith, because when he bought the property, there was no annotation of the adverse claim on the title of the seller. Okay. So, anong sabi ng Supreme Court? Okay. Now, in this 2023 case, the Supreme Court ruled, okay, that although the adverse claim was not carried over to the next or to the subsequent certificate of title, but under Section 52 of the Property Registration Decree, okay, every conveyance, instrument, or entry affecting registered lands shall, if registered, filed, or entered in the office of the Register of Deeds, be constructive notice to all persons from the time of such registering, filing, or entering. So, from the time that the adverse claim was annotated, the whole word is now constructively notified of that adverse claim. So, hindi na kailangang ma-carry over pa doon sa subsequent certificate of title in the name of the seller. Okay? So, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, si Espejo, although he purchased it from the seller and the title of the seller has no annotation of the adverse claim, he cannot be a buyer in good faith because of the constructive notice of the adverse claim when it was registered in the ROD. Okay? So, I hope malinaw yon sa inyo. Now, another case, this is now on actual knowledge. Okay? It's the case of Bilyote versus spouses Victor and Remedios Badar. Okay? This is GR number 236140. The date is April 19, 2023. GR number 236140. Now, in this case, okay, again, I'll skip na yung facts. I'll just give the background. In this case, the issue is whether the spouses Badar are buyers in good faith, despite the presence of the annotation of Section 4, Rule 74 of the Rules of Court on the Certificate of Title. Okay? Ito kasi, di ba usually pag nagkakaroon ng estate settlement, pag transfer ang title, yung title sa new owner, mayroong naka-annotate na section, yung encumbrance under Section 4 of Rule 74. Diba? It's for the liability of the distributors and estate, because the heirs are given, or yung creditors are given 2 years, okay, after the settlement and distribution of the estate to claim. Okay? Now, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, take note of this, etong encumbrance na to, although if you buy a property with this kind of encumbrance, okay, I will just summarize kung anong sinasabi ng Supreme Court, ang ruling. Yung encumbrance under Rule 74 Section 4 ay hindi pwedeng i-avail ng lahat. Okay? It can only be availed by the heirs or the debtors, okay, na they were deprived of the lawful participation on the estate, in the distribution of the estate. So sila lang ang pwedeng mag-invoke nito. So if you buy a property, okay, although there is an encumbrance under Section 4 Rule 74, if ang nagki-claim kalaban mo sa case ngayon, okay, na nagsasabing you are now a purchaser in bad faith. If he is not an heir or a debtor has been unlawfully deprived of participation in the estate, hindi yon magiging source ng bad faith mo. Okay? So although nandun yon sa seller, sa certificate of title ng seller, but you will not be considered as a buyer in bad faith if you are dealing, ang kalaban mo sa pag-claim doon sa rightful ownership on the property is not an heir or a debtor. Okay? Again, only the heir or the debtor can invoke of that section of the encumbrance under Section 4, Rule 74. Okay? Okay. Now, let's move on. Okay? Let's proceed to the forged document as a root of a valid title. Kasi usually nagbabago-bago talaga ang decision ng Supreme Court sa issue na to. Okay. Now, you are all familiar, I'm sure, of the doctrine that a forged document can be a root of a valid title in the hands of an innocent purchaser for value. Okay. Now, nagkakaroon lang ng issue, okay, if the case is between now the innocent purchaser and the owner who was not or who is not negligent. Okay? So, pareha sila innocent. Okay. Yung owner na na-deprive ng property and now the innocent purchaser. Okay? So, ang laging issue is, sino ba ang dapat may better right? Who should be protected by our law? The innocent purchaser who just relied on the certificate of title, or the rightful owner who was not himself negligent. Okay? So, yun ang nagiging issue. Now, before ang ruling ng Supreme Court, okay, ang sinasabi ng Supreme Court, that's true that a forged document can be a root of a valid title, but that principle will not apply if the true owner is still in possession of his title. So, ganun lang kasimple. Pag may title pa yung rightful owner, kahit pa maibenta pa yan ng kung sino man using a forged document, nabili, halimbawa, naka-issue ng second owner's duplicate copy na pa-transfer doon sa forger and then naibenta sa innocent purchaser for value, it doesn't matter. Kasi as long as the owner, the rightful owner, has in his possession his certificate of title. Now, in 2014, nabago to, okay? This doctrine was changed when the Supreme Court promulgated the case of Peralta, Spouses Peralta versus Abalon, okay? And that was in 2014. Because in this case, the Supreme Court, ang sabi ng Supreme Court at this time, that the innocent purchaser for value has a better right over the true owner who is in possession of his title if there was a complete chain of registered titles. So ito na yung complete chain of registered titles doctrine. So, ibig sabihin, as long as yung buyer in good faith, so yung buyer, he relied on the certificate of title and complete yung document naman doon sa Register of Deeds, the innocent purchaser for value will have a better right. Okay? Basta complete yon. Ang nangyayari yun, halimbawa, yung rightful owner, pumunta ng abroad, dala niya yung owner's duplicate niya, and then may nag-forge ng kanyang signature in a deed of sale. So, ang lumalabas, naibenta niya doon sa forger, and the forger will use the forged document to secure a second owner's duplicate copy. And then, pag nabigyan, so, i-register niya na ngayon yung property sa pangalan niya na. So, malinis na ngayon yung certificate of title ng seller. Ibebenta na ngayon sa innocent purchaser for value. So, doon nangyayari. Now, yun na ngayon ang complete chain of registered title. Prinotektahan na ngayon yung innocent purchaser for value. But there is now yung recent jurisprudence, okay, na ang sabi ng Supreme Court, the owner has a superior right if he is not negligent. Okay, parang bumalik na sa pinaka old na rule. Okay, so that is GR number 225722 April 26, 2023. Yung case kanina na Republic versus Espejo that I mentioned. Now, ang sabi kasi dito ng Supreme Court, even assuming na buyer in good faith, itong si Espejo, okay, yung rightful owner dito, yung school, would still have a superior right over the property. Ang sabi ng Supreme Court, in this case, the school committed neither fault nor negligence when respondent Contanse illegally and without authority executed the deed of reconveyance in favor of the umipigs and respondent Faustino. Okay? So, since wala siyang negligence yung school, wala siyang fault kung bakit na i-transfer yung property to another, and between the school and the innocent purchaser for value, the rightful owner who is not negligent should have a superior right. Okay? Ayan. Now, there is another case, January 10, 2023. This is an en banc case, GR number 250636. Mas grabe yung decision dito. Kasi ang sabi ng Supreme Court dito, in the case of Plana versus Chua, okay, the owner has a superior right if it's not negligent, although it is no longer the registered owner. Okay? So, I'll give you the facts ng case. So, in this case, Merlinda and her first husband, namatay na yung first husband, si Nelson Plana, they owned 5 lots, okay, situated in Iloilo, covered by separate titles. Now, Nelson died, okay, in 1971, and in March 1975, Merlinda got married to Ramon, so nag-remarry siya. Now, but eventually, in 1979, they got separated, okay, from bed and board. But while they were still together, ito namang si Ramon, he fraudulently made Merlinda sign a deed of definite sale, okay, in 1975, purportedly selling the 5 lots to him. Okay, so there was finding of fraud by the Supreme Court. Now, so because of that, the certificate of title of Merlinda were all canceled and syempre 5 new certificates of title were issued to Ramon. So si Ramon na yung registered owner. Now, Ramon, yung one of the lots, Okay? He mortgaged it in 1996 to Lourdes. Okay? A mortgagee in good faith. In good faith daw sabi ng Supreme Court si Lourdes to secure the amount of 130,000. Okay? Na may loan. Okay. Now, on July 15, 1996, the mortgage rather, was annotated on the back of the title ni Ramon. Okay. Now, eto na. Who has a better right to the property? Si Merlinda as the owner, the rightful owner, or si Lourdes as the mortgagee in good faith? Okay. Now, take note, yung property at the time ng sale ay hindi na din nakapangalan kay Merlinda. Diba? Kasi na-cancel na using the deed of definite sale that was fraudulently made. Okay? So, ano ang sabi ng Supreme Court? Sabi ng Supreme Court, while it is true that a void title may be a source of a valid title in the hands of an innocent purchaser for value, however, where the true owner has not been found negligent or has not committed an act which could have brought about the issuance of another title relied upon by the purchaser or mortgagee for value, then the true innocent owner, whether still registered or deemed registered, has a better right over the mortgagee in good faith. Okay? So, sabi ng Supreme Court, it did not matter that Merlinda had by then eased out or erased as the lot's registered owner. Okay? So, hindi na kailangang nakaregister pa sa rightful owner. So, kahit pa yan matransfer pa, as long as hindi negligent yung rightful owner, siya na ngayon ang binibigyan ng protection ng batas. Okay? Over an innocent purchaser for value. So, yan ang recent trend ng jurisprudence natin. Okay? Alright. So, later on, kung may mga questions kayo, sasagutin natin. But as of now, we'll continue with the discussion. The next one is on the Regalian Doctrine. Okay. I just want to discuss yung case. May isang case na involving the Regalian Doctrine. It's Republic versus Sadka. Okay. It's GR number 218640. 218640, dated November 29, 2021. Now, here, okay, in 1975, Akay, who is a member of the Katana A tribe, Katana A, siguro nagsimula yung AAA, okay? Katana A tribe was awarded free patent over a parcel of land in Benguet, okay? And a certificate of title was later issued in his name, doon kay Akay. Okay. Now, in 2002, the Republic filed a complaint for the cancellation of the free patent and the original certificate of title, and as well as for the reversion of the lot. Ang sabi ng Republic, the lot was awarded to Akay. The lot that was awarded to Akay was located inside Mount Data National Park and National Forest. Hence, it was not alienable. So, alam naman natin yun, pag forest land is not alienable. So, the issue now is may members of the national cultural minorities, yung mga IPs natin and ICCs, di ba? Can they or may they apply for confirmation of title to their ancestral land situated inside the national park and national forest? Okay, yun ang issue. So, sabi ng Supreme Court, pwede. Okay, yes. It gave 3 reasons. Okay, isa-summarize ko lang. The first reason, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, because under Section 48 of the Public Land Act, as amended, okay, the members of the national cultural minorities may apply whether the land is disposable or not. Okay? So, nasa law mismo, hindi niya kahit pa hindi alienable, indisposable, pwede yon applyan. Okay? Yung mga ancestral land ng ating mga ICs and IPs and ICCs. So long as the land applied for is suitable for agriculture. Yan lang naman ang isang requirement. Basta suitable for agriculture. Now, the second reason, sinabi ng Supreme Court, okay, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, there is this Presidential Decree number 410, declaring the ancestral lands occupied and cultivated by our indigenous cultural communities for a period of at least 30 years as alienable and disposable. So mayroon namang law na nagdi-declare na alienable and disposable na etong mga ancestral land as long as it has been occupied for a period of at least 30 years. Okay. But the last reason in relation to the topic of the Regalian Doctrine, okay, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, okay, sabi niya, so while the property is within the Mount Data National Park and National Forest, okay, and forest land is considered part of the public domain and cannot be the subject of registration. However, a recognized exception to the rule on inalienability of public land is if the forest or mineral land has been statutorily reclassified and considered as ancestral land. Okay? So by way of exception to the Regalian Doctrine or the rule that all land belong to the state, land possessed by occupants and their predecessors in interest since time immemorial or before Spanish conquest was never part of the public domain. Okay? So yung application ng exception to the Regalian Doctrine. Okay? So we go to the next topic, the nationality restrictions on land ownership. So, by the way, I'm discussing lang yung mga topics na covered ng syllabus sa civil law. Okay? Now, restriction on land ownership, you all know that there is a constitutional ban against ownership of Philippine lands by non-Filipino. Okay? Na ang nangyayari ngayon, there are other ways for non-Filipinos to acquire land in the Philippines. Paano? By acquiring Philippine citizenship. Anyway, so non-Filipinos cannot acquire private or public land. Okay? Except only by way of legal succession. Yun lang ang only exception. Because legal succession, siya na yung nagsasabi na ikaw ang may-ari ng property. So, pwede yon. Now, take note that this constitutional ban does not apply to foreigners if the property was acquired at the time that they were still Filipinos. In other words, if you are a Filipino, natural-born Filipino, you acquired a parcel of land, hindi mo pa na-register, now, and then you became a citizen of another country. So, alien ka na insofar as Philippine is concerned kasi foreigner ka na. So, can you still acquire that land, even register that land? The answer is yes. Okay? So, we have the case of Morales versus De Guia, GR number 247367. This is a December 5, 2022 case. Okay? So, let me just give you the facts of the case. So, sometime in 1966, Abner bought an unregistered parcel of land in Olongapo City. So in 1968, he allowed the Dominador Morales and his family, okay, to stay on the property for free. Okay, also for free. Now, in 1975, Abner and his family migrated to the USA, where Abner later on became a naturalized American citizen. Now, while abroad, Abner helped Dominador send his children to school, and Abner trusted Dominador to take good care of the property. Now, unknown to Abner, itong si Dominador, he declared a portion of the property in his name and also in the name of his children, okay, for tax purposes. And on December 14, 2000, nalaman na ni Abner, so he filed an action for recovery of possession and ownership of the real property, okay, against the Morales family. Ang sabi ng Morales family, Abner had no legal capacity to file the complaint because the property is a public land. And because of that, he is prohibited to own and acquire public land under the Constitution. Kasi nga naman, American citizen na siya. So, anong issue dito? Whether Abner, as a naturalized American citizen, retained his ownership over the subject property which he acquired while he was still a Filipino. The answer is yes. Okay? He retained his ownership. So because his right to the subject property was not lost by reason of his naturalization as a U.S. citizen. Okay? Because Abner was a natural-born Filipino citizen when he acquired the property from its previous owner. As a result, he is deemed to have acquired a vested right over the property. Okay? Okay. Sige. Now, let's go to the next topic. Okay. Doctrines affecting title. We will just discuss yung collateral attack. Okay. Collateral attack, of course, the doctrine is that the validity of a title cannot be attacked collaterally. It cannot be altered, modified, or canceled except in a direct proceeding. Okay? So, yung direct attack lang ang pwedeng gawin sa isang certificate of title. Now, there is this case of Garcia versus Esclito. Okay? GR number 207210. GR number 207210. Dated March 21, 2022. Okay. Now, in 1979, Antonio Garcia purchased from Conchita Matute a 29-hectare parcel of land located in Davao through a deed of sale. In 1998, he divided the land and donated portions of it to his children and grandchildren, okay, through deeds of transfer of rights. In November 1998, petitioners were issued their respective patents and thereafter certificates of title. So yung mga children yun and grandchildren, may kanya-kanya na sila ang certificate of title. In 2003, respondents who are holders of certificates of land ownership award, okay? In other words, may iba pang nagkiklaim doon sa property. Ito na yung mga respondents sa case. So, meron silang Certificates of Land Ownership Award or CLOA, okay, issued by DAR on December 19, 1998. Okay? Again, the title was issued to the petitioners in this case in November 1998. The CLOA was issued on December 19, 1998. So, etong mga may CLOA, they filed a petition for the annulment, declaration of nullity of deed of sale, okay, and all the deeds, documents, and proceedings relying thereon before the office of the provincial adjudicator of Darab. So, inasale nila yung deed of sale ni the deed of sale, ito na yung ina-asale nila yung kay Antonio Garcia. Okay? deed of sale ni Antonio Garcia. So, remember, Antonio Garcia, nabili niya, and then he transferred it to his children and grandchildren na mayroon ng certificate of title. The case was filed before the office of the provincial adjudicator of the Darab. Okay? Now, ang question is whether the petition before the provincial adjudication constitutes as an impermissible collateral attack on petitioner's torrent certificate of title. Sabi ng Supreme Court, yes. Okay? Ang sabi ng Supreme Court, again, ni-restate yung doctrine that the certificate of title cannot be subject to a collateral attack. Now, in this case, although the respondents mainly sought for the nullification of the deed of sale ni Antonio Garcia, okay, they also allege that such instrument ultimately give rise to the issuance of certificates of title in favor of petitioner. Okay? So, ang nangyayari, although they are attacking the deed of sale, okay, but once the deed is nullified by the Darab, of course, the cancellation of the certificates will logically follow, reducing the succeeding cancellation proceedings to a mere formality. So, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, that will constitute also as a collateral attack. Okay? Now, take note, certificate of title yon. Dapat, if you want to attack it, you file a case before the RTC. Now, this case was filed with the provincial adjudicator of Darab. Okay? And hindi naman niya directly ina-attack yung, although hindi niya ina-attack yung certificate of title, ina-attack niya yung deed of sale, which was the basis of the issuance later on of the certificates of title. Okay? So, that's also, sabi ng Supreme Court, a collateral attack. Okay? Next one, we go to the to PD 1529 and judicial confirmation of imperfect title under CA 141 in relation to the amendment brought about by RA 11573. Okay? If you recall this one, the amendment took effect on September 1, 2021. Now, the significant changes na nangyari, okay? I'm sure na pag-aralan nyo na yung amendment na to, okay? The most significant, of course, is yung instead na June 12, 1945, instead na yung prescription na 30 years, ang ginawa na lang ngayon ay pinaikli into 20 years. Okay? So 20 years na lang ang possession. Now, what is significant, however, is that etong law na to, sinabi mismo ng law na it should apply retroactively. So, any question ngayon ng pagdating sa bar exam, pag may facts, you can apply already the amendment under 11573. In fact, yun ang ginagawa ng Supreme Court pag may mga cases na nakakarating sa kanila na still based on the old law, okay, binabalik na nire-remand sa RTC or sa CA for continuation pa ng case, applying now the new requirement under the law, yung 20 years. Okay. Now, I just want to discuss itong isang case, yung Superior General of the Religious of the Virgin Mary or RVM versus Republic. Okay. This is GR number 205641. 205641, dated October 5, 2022. Okay. Now, the Religious of the Virgin Mary or yung RVM is a religious corporation organized as a corporation sole with its Superior General as incorporator. Now, on October 25, 1999, the RVM filed an application for registration of a 4,539 square meters parcel of land located in Eastern Samar, which it obtained through a series of sales and a donation from 5 individuals. Okay, so may na-acquire nila from 5 individuals. The first one was in January 22, 1946. And then in between, and the latest na na-acquire nila, July 6, 1973. Now, may the RBM acquire ownership to the land and register the same? That's the issue. Okay. The problem lang na kailangang ma-resolve is because RVM is a private corporation, and under the Constitution, private corporations are disqualified from holding alienable lands of the public domain. Okay? But of course, private corporations, they can acquire private lands. Okay. Now, ito, take note that the prohibition against private corporations from acquiring public land, 1973 lang, under the 1973 Constitution lang yun nag-start. Okay? And the 1973 Constitution took effect on January 17, 1973. So, yun ang titingnan. You should be aware also of that. Kung kailan nag-take effect, yung 1973 Constitution, January 17, 1973. Now, of course, under the old law, hindi magka-qualify yung RVM. But because of the amendment, yung ginawa na lang na 20 years, so sabi ng Supreme Court, pag binilang mo yung start ng possession o at the time na nabili, okay, yung January 22, 1946, if you have 20 years, if they are in possession for 20 years, before pa naman nag-take effect yung 1973 Constitution, na-complete na nila yon, yung requirement of 30 years. And ang effect nun, okay, the effect of that is the land will be converted from public land to private land by operation of law. Okay? So once na-complete mo kasi yung possession na yon, the land will be converted into a private land. So wala nang mababiolate under the Constitution kasi private land na yon. So pwede mo nang i-register yon. Yan ang sabi ng Supreme Court. So dito, 1946, yung isa 1950, 1951, 1952. So pasok yung 20 years before pa mag-take effect yung 1973 Constitution, naka 20 years na sila. So inallow na ng Supreme Court. Yung last one lang, yung kay Cada, galing nabili kay Fernando Cada, July 6, 1953. Okay? So kinulang, before pa mag-complete yung 20 years, kulang, nag-take effect na yung Constitution. But, anong ginawa ng Supreme Court? Ni-remand niya pa din sa Court of Appeals yung case. Kasi ang sabi ng Supreme Court, pwede pa namang itak nung RVM yung possession niya doon kay Fernando Cada. Okay? Kasi si Fernando Cada ang naunang nag-possess. So, pag itinak mo yung possession, idinugtog mo, inad mo yon, baka umabot pa ng 20 years. Okay? So, yun lang ang dito sa case na to. Okay? So, okay. Yan. The next one, we go to the decree of registration. Okay? And we'll specifically discuss yung indefeasibility or incontrovertibility. Okay? Indefeasibility or incontrovertibility of the decree. Okay? So, kailan yun nangyari? 1 year from or after the entry of the decree. Okay. Now, yung 1 year na yan, it's actually a prescriptive period. Okay? It's a prescriptive period to assail the decree issued in favor of the applicant. So in the case of Samson versus Tapus, it's GR number 245914, dated June 16, 2021. Again, 245914. Now, in this case, in 2009, the respondents sued petitioners for declaration of nullity of OCT number RO2222 and its derivative titles, claiming that their predecessors in interest had been in continuous, exclusive, adverse, and open occupation and possession of several parcels of land in the concept of owner for more than 50 years until his death. Okay. They allege that OCT number RO2222, which was issued in 1932, and its derivative titles are void. Okay? 1932, in-issue yung original certificate of title. Okay? The issue now is the case barred by prescription? Okay? Alin yung prescriptive period? Yung 1 year. That's the 1 year period within which you can file a case. Otherwise, the decree will become indefeasible or incontrovertible. Incontrovertible. Okay? So sabi ng Supreme Court, yes, it is already barred by prescription because OCT number RO2222 was issued way back in 1932 while the case was filed in 2009 only. Okay? Okay. So the Supreme Court cited yung Section 38 of Act number 496 or the Land Registration Act. Okay? Sabi doon, the decree of registration shall not be opened by reason of the absence, infancy, or other disability of any person affected thereby, nor by any proceeding in any court for reversing judgment or decrees. Okay? Subject, however, to the right of any person deprived of land or any estate or interest therein by decree of registration obtained by fraud to file in the Court of Land Registration a petition for review within 1 year after the entry of the decree. Okay, so yun ang basis ng Supreme Court. Yung 1 year na yon, that's the prescriptive period to assail the issuance of the decree of registration. Okay? Okay. Now, and we go to the assurance fund. Okay. We will not be discussing anymore at this time yung yung assurance fund. Okay. I presuppose or I assume that you are aware of the nature of the assurance fund. Okay. What I will just discuss is the prescriptive period. Okay. I want you to take note because for me that's important. Yung prescriptive period, diba, mayroong 6 years from the time the right to bring the action. Okay. Yung 1 year na yon, that is 6 years na yon, yun ang prescriptive period. Now, kailan ba yon? What is the reckoning point or moment? Okay? Para mag-start yung prescription. Okay? Now, take note that for purposes of prescription, and for purposes of determining the right to bring an action against the assurance fund, the prescription should be reckoned from the moment the innocent purchaser for value register his or her title. 1. Isa lang yan. 2 ang requirement. Again, the first one, from the moment the innocent purchaser for value registered his or her title. And number 2, upon actual knowledge thereof of the original title holder or claimant. 2. Okay? From the registration ng title nung yung nakabili, and then actual knowledge of that registration by the original title holder. Okay? So 2, and na ngayon ang nakalagay, hindi lang or. And ibig sabihin, yung 2 requirements na yan, they must both be present before mag-start yung prescriptive period. Okay? Now, is the prior declaration of insolvency required before ka magka-claim sa assurance fund? Sabi ng Supreme Court, no. Okay? There is no need for a prior declaration. And the last case that I will be discussing is on the reconstitution of the certificate of title. That's part also of the syllabus. And there is one case here, Republic versus heirs of Eduardo Buuk. Okay, heirs versus Republic versus heirs of Eduardo Buuk, GR number 207159. Again, 207159, dated February 28, 2022. Now, I'll just summarize na lang. Okay. In this case, okay, di ba, pag judicial reconstitution of title, there is that requirement of notice, the notice requirement rather, that's the publication, posting, and mailing. Because the notice of hearing, di ba, kailangang i-publish yun. Okay? To inform the public na mayroong hearing dito sa case na to, and yung may mga claims, they need to appear before the court. Okay? Now, in this case, the notice of hearing did not indicate the number of the lost or destroyed certificate of title. Okay? So, di ba, usually, nakalagay doon sa notice of hearing kung anong certificate of title ang involved. Naka-state kung ano ang number. But in this case, ang nakalagay lang, original certificate of title of lots numbers 4749, 4765, and 4777. Hindi nilagay yung number ng certificate of title itself. Okay? Ang sabi ng Supreme Court, that is not compliant. Okay? The court will not acquire, yung RTC will not acquire jurisdiction over the petition because of that defect. Okay? Although there are other defects noted by the Supreme Court doon sa notice of hearing. Ang mga na-note ng Supreme Court, number one, yung names ng mga occupants and possessors of the lots ay hindi naka-state. Okay? And then the area and the boundaries of the subject lots were not also indicated. And lastly, the date on which all persons having interest therein must appear and file their claim or objection to the petition was not also indicated. Okay, so lahat-lahat na yon, but in-emphasize muna ng Supreme Court yung title number na wala. So, nung dinugtong pa yung tatlo pang hindi nakalagay or naka-indicate sa notice of hearing, ang decision ng sabi ng Supreme Court, the court or the RTC did not acquire jurisdiction over the petition for reconstitution. Okay? Okay, that's it. Miguel, if they have questions, I will try to answer them.
Yes po, hello po. I guess the usual questions po is that in your opinion po ba, what will be the topic in civil law or specifically po for this one, land titles and deeds that you predict that will be asked in the lupus war?
Okay. Ang nakikita ko kasi madaming changes doon sa buyer in good faith na issue. Okay? So yun ang may mga recent changes ng Supreme Court, yung issue na yon. Yung first part na diniscuss ko, yun yung mga issues on the bad faith or good faith of the buyer.
Okay, got it po. And then, is there also any key points for arborists that they need to remember aside from this specific topics?
Well, siyempre, they still have to study the rest of the provisions or the topics that I have not discussed. But I think that will be covered by the subsequent lectures from
Mhm.
PAL. Okay? This one kasi, this is Caso Discurso, so we'll just discussing yung mga recent cases. So, abangan nyo na lang yung subsequent na mga lecture. I still have one lecture dito sa PALS, also about land titles and deeds.
Oh, yes, Paul. We'll be waiting for that. I think I'll be hosting that then. Hopefully, we'll see each other again. And
Yeah.
then, last part is, do you have any general tips to our law students? Because as far as we know, they're actually also law students from different years, like the first year, second year. So do you have any general tips for them when it comes to law school, especially for those incoming second year and incoming third year who'll be taking the subject?
Well, as a general tip, of course, sa akin, it's not about memorization. Okay? It's about understanding the reason ng isang law. Okay? Because when you understand why a particular law exists, yung Supreme Court naman natin, palaging pag may decision, kinoconnect yun doon. So if you understand the law and
Mm-mm.
the reason for its existence, and also the reason ng Supreme Court why ganito ang ruling niya, mas madali mo siyang maiintindihan. Okay? It's easier to understand than just merely memorizing. Pag nag-memorize ka kasi, minsan, when the time comes na kailangan mo ng sumagot based on inaral mo, since memorize mo lang, of course, minsan nag-fail na yung memory natin kasi
Mm-mm.
sa dami-dami ng binabasa natin. But if you understand the law, mas madaling ma-recover from your mind yung
Mm-mm.
ano ang tamang sagot. Okay?
Especially when it comes to application.
Yes, of course.
Mm. Personally, I do have a problem sometimes with the application, like the memorization. Like it's okay, but the application will kind of difficult sometimes.
Mm-mm.
Yes, but thank you very much, Dean Miliano, for delivering such a comprehensive lecture regarding the latest cases on land titles and deeds po. Hopefully our law students really took note of everything, especially the tips that you've mentioned
Mm.
for our incoming baristas and our law students po. So for that po, again, thank you very much po. We'll be taking a short break lang po for now.
All
Thank you
right.
po. Hello, I am back again. Hopefully, again, as mentioned a while ago, you really took note, especially of the tips that Dean Miliano said. So, again, as I mentioned a while ago, our lecture today for land titles and deeds is just one of our many lectures for Casa Discurso, as we also have those for legal ethics later with Dean Jose A. Grapalot at 2 p.m., criminal law on August 2nd with Dean Gemelito L. Fastin, and for more information regarding our lecture and lecturers, like and follow the Facebook page of PALS or the Philippine Association of Law Schools to be updated on the dates and speaker for each program. And again, we would also like to thank our main sponsors for this initiative, Rex Education and Central Books. So I guess that's it for me for today. See you again later. This has been Miguel Taksuan, your host for Casa Discurso. Till our next lecture session. God bless everyone.